Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are waking up and feeling good out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great week out there so far. Here to bring you the latest on what we got weather-wise across the entire lower 48 for your Wednesday. We'll break down a strong to severe thunderstorm risk across areas of the Dakotas, the mid-Atlantic sections of the Northeast and the Ohio Valley. We'll kind of zoom into those areas for you folks, and then we'll break down a little winter weather actually across areas of western Montana as we have some energy diving down from Canada. It's just cold enough for some of these higher elevations of the Rockies in Montana to get a little bit of snow. We've actually already had some interesting weather across western and central Montana, and we continue this morning to have that too. So we'll speak on that. We'll break down the rest of the country also after we get done doing that. We will break down in some pretty good detail a significant pattern change on the way for the central and eastern U.S. This is going to bring cooler than average temperatures, the potential for an unsettled pattern, maybe a rainy pattern across the south. And I'm just going to talk to you guys about how I think this cool down on the way is going to be different and why it's going to be different than the cool down we just kind of experienced across the eastern U.S., the southern U.S., where we had just several days in a row of very comfortable temperatures for mid to late August standards. So I'm going to dive deep into that, kind of talk about how much rain potentially we could get across the southeast and even areas outside the southeast. And after we do that, we round this video off by giving you an update on the tropics. So we'll give you the latest information we have from overnight into this morning. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put those in the comments below. Asking for prayers for my wife this morning. She's fine. I think school's just kind of kicking her butt right now. She teaches fourth graders, so always thought, me and her kind of chatted about this before, and she knew this too, that, that fourth grade, your first year of teaching, and I know I have teachers tuning in right now probably, that wants to chime in, and please do. I always knew kind of fourth grade was going to be a tough first year to teach. Getting closer to those middle school kids, they can be certainly kind of brutal, but I think we all know that, with just the changing of everything, your personality changing and stuff, getting closer to puberty. But, she's a little discouraged, I would say, not to the point where she's going to give up. It's nothing like that. But, of course, I'm sure teachers can relate to that and just kicking her butt a little bit. And, one day she'll feel really upbeat and positive, but it's like yesterday we had a day where, she was just down and out, and I had to just encourage her as her husband. So just asking for prayers that, she can feel so much better and just feel rejuvenated, I guess, and just stay encouraged. So thank you for that. I know you guys will pray over me and definitely praying over all your prayer requests also. So 3 minutes in, let's get rocking and rolling. So we do have energy across the Midwest areas of the Ohio Valley, and nothing strong to severe or anything like that. We got a lot of moisture hanging off, mainly off the coast of the Gulf coastline here, but a lot of this is going to move inland, bring the potential for some heavy rainfall down here, so we'll watch out for that. We are waking up to a pretty soggy start up here in the state of Maine. Not everybody, but a good chunk of Maine waking up to some rain. And then we got this interesting tail whipping feature right here with this energy diving down out of Canada. And from what I'm hearing, this band of heavy precipitation has brought some very interesting weather. I think Karen hit me up early this morning talking about how this, I think it was this area of energy right here surging through western and central Montana has brought some really interesting weather this morning. So we do have some rain kind of dancing around down here in Arizona and New Mexico, but definitely not super widespread. Not everybody's getting it. So that's what's going on right now. Watches, warnings, and advisories. The orange heat advisories, that purple color right here, those are excessive heat warnings for a couple counties in PA and New Jersey. Very hot in the mid-Atlantic today. In fact, the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area could hit 99, 100 degrees a day, actual air temperature. Heat advisories up for areas in the Midwest and the Ohio Valley right here into the western backside of the Appalachian Mountains here in West Virginia, where it could get very hot. I'm starting to hear it's getting extremely dry. I read a comment yesterday in the comments that said that there's big time concern with some of the farmers in the northern sections, I believe, of West Virginia. Correct me if I'm wrong. So hopefully we can get a nice soaking rain up into this area. But red flag warnings across the high plains. You see in this hot pink color, it's getting very dry. And then check it out. We got, make sure I got this right. I always get these colors mixed up with the wind alerts. Yeah, high wind warnings across the Rockies and Montana. Winter weather advisory, so gusty winds with this cyclone. We're starting to get these mid-level cyclones that are diving further and further, deeper and deeper south as we're getting the changing of the seasons. I mean, we're almost in September. Very excited myself. Always consider Labor Day weekend the gateway to the best time of the year, in my personal opinion. It don't matter if it's 1,000,000 degrees outside. I'll go up into my attic and pull all my fall decorations down the first weekend of September and light me a fall candle while I roast alive when it's 102 degrees outside here in Columbia, South Carolina. But I think a lot of people understand the vibe of that. But flood watches are up for New Mexico, so there's some alerts out there. There's those winter weather advisories in that purplish color right here. So we're going to start to see more and more of that as we get deeper into September and so forth. So excessive rainfall outlook. We got a marginal risk here, here, and here. In those green areas, just a 5% risk of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance. So we'll certainly be aware of that. But, any kind of flooding risk today is very low. Now, the Storm Prediction Center outlook. It's been kind of an active week for severe weather, right? Especially for the northern section of the country. And this has been your typical kind of summer. On average, as you get deeper into summer, I've mentioned this quite a few times, your jet begins to kind of move further and further north. As you start to get closer to late summer, early fall, your jet starts to return. You get more aggressive digs in the jet stream, cold fronts, and of course your severe weather chances begin to dive a little bit more and more further south. And that is the case. We're starting to get these severe weather chances to return in the lower 48. So we got a slight risk again for areas of the Dakotas, a slight risk going from, right in the heart of Ohio, right through the entire southern half of PA, northern sections of West Virginia, good chunk of Maryland, all the way into the Delmarva, and basically the southern 2/3 of New Jersey has a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. Even a marginal risk up to New York City, down to the D.C. area. So definitely a boundary right into here. When just south and along this boundary, enough heating, enough moist air in the atmosphere, and we're going to just run the chance of strong to severe storms. So tornado threat. 2% risk in the green area of a tornado in the Dakotas within 25 miles in a given location. The wind threat in that yellow area, that's where you have a 15% chance of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. And then the hail threat, it's lower in this risk area over here, but over here it's higher. Not only do you have in the yellow area a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger, you also have in that black outlined area, which includes Pierre up to Bismarck, a 10% chance of hail exceeding 2 inch in diameter or larger. So it could be another day of big hail across the Dakotas like it was a couple days ago. So that's the that's the Storm Prediction Center outlook. Now, if we break down the southeast, once again, I think I've said this like repeatedly over the last couple of days, kind of a rinse and repeat type pattern. A lot of shower and storm activity across the state of Florida. Anybody can get it. I mean, it's kind of just anybody's game out here to get a storm. We're starting to get a push of tropical moisture oozing a little bit further north. So, the Texas coastline, which I'll talk more on the south central timestamp, but, Louisiana coastline starting to get some showers and storms. And I will say that some of this is starting to ooze a little bit further north. We're starting to get some storms up here in southern Montana. I actually, I joke around on Twitter, on social media, saying northern Alabama has the same weather as Montana because it just seems like northern Alabama always gets so much more winter weather than any other southern states across the South. It really does. And so it's kind of one of my ongoing mini jokes on social media that northern Alabama is like equivalent. I just call northern Alabama Montana, but that's why I almost called it Montana there. But Alabama, we could get some showers and storms that ooze a little bit further north. And, some of these could pack a punch in southern Alabama. It's very possible. So just be aware of that. Definitely not a non-zero chance of of storms in this area. So the northeast, it's going to be a little bit more active. The rain will head on out of Maine and then it'll clear out, end up being a decent day up here. We get into this afternoon, not a whole lot showing up, but there is some flow out there. And you see these storms here in northern PA, some storms down here in southern PA. Even if you look closely in Maryland, any storms that form in this kind of corridor right here south of this boundary, separating that moist, hot air with that more dry, stable air, you are certainly going to run the risk of some strong to severe storms. So this continues. It just doesn't look very widespread to me, right? I mean, it just, as you get into like midnight, 1 a.m., you see some storms hanging out down here in southeast PA, trying to ooze into the Delmarva. And it shows some big storms like in the southern half of New Jersey late tonight. But if you look at that, you would say, well, Well, dang, Mitch, that didn't seem very widespread. It doesn't look very widespread to me. If you get a closer look here, there are those storms right there. They really look like they fire up kind of east of Pittsburgh. Cruise through areas of central PA. It could be more intense, I would say, in the southern counties of PA. Watch out in the far western sections of Maryland, northern West Virginia. These storms could pack some punch here. A damaging wind threat is certainly the highest threat with these. They just don't look very widespread. But that might not be the story here. I mean, this is like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning. Look at those storms down here in northern Delaware getting into sections of New Jersey. So if you live down in this area, including like Philadelphia, maybe all the way down to Dover, all the way to the Jersey Shore, don't be surprised if you're woken up by some loud claps of thunder and things like that. So definitely be aware of that. Those could produce damaging winds. But the temperatures are going to be a big story too, guys. They're going from 99 to 100 degrees in the Washington, D.C. area today. Hot down in North Carolina too. It might hit 100 degrees close to Raleigh today. Very hot all the way into the Delmarva, the Tidewater area. Very hot, humid, and just downright uncomfortable. Even some heat getting all the way up into southern New England. Upper 80s to around 90 degrees in certain areas. So the south central U.S., Oklahoma pretty quiet, Arkansas pretty quiet, but you head on down here to the coastal regions of Texas, you're definitely going to have a big time shower and storm kind of day. Nothing too severe or anything bad, but just a lot of tropical downpours, a lot of cloud cover, a lot of just on and off storms. We'll kind of dance around. We get into this evening. When is this? Yeah, this is later this evening. Maybe some storms make it all the way into central Texas. A little bit of shower activity will be there in New Mexico today. I don't expect really any of this action to make it up to Arkansas, but you're waking up tomorrow morning with a big plume of tropical moisture moving into Houston down to Corpus Christi, and could be another big day of showers and storms down here again. As you can tell, as you're getting into tomorrow, starting to get more pop-up activity kind of everywhere across this area. It looks like pop-up showers and storms. Up here in the north central U.S., we're going to have some intense weather across the Dakotas, but I do want to mention in lower Michigan, some storms could fire up in central lower Michigan and then drift kind of towards the southern Ontario area, Lake Huron, kind of between Lake Huron and Lake Erie. These storms could be intense in this area right here, so if you live here, some strong to severe storms are possible. By the time we get into dinner time, I think for the most part they'll be over. But then your eyes go over here to the Dakotas. Well, we got this round of storms that fire up in the middle sections of North Dakota. Doesn't show a whole lot of action down to South Dakota, but as you guys know, that does not mean it's not going to happen. But just a little bit closer, my friends here in the Dakotas, we take it to about, 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m. There's those storms firing up maybe around the Bismarck area. And they just rumble through central to eastern areas of North Dakota. The timing of this could be anywhere. It could start as early as late afternoon, maybe as late as after the sun sets out here. But if you notice, those storms don't really fire up down there much in South Dakota. But these storms could turn into a pretty intense complex of storms up here in northeast North Dakota, northwest Minnesota. So if you live in this area way up here, probably I'll imagine it's open areas out here, country areas, up here near the Canadian line. This is like 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. These storms could create a lot of ruckus up here in this area of the country. But down here in South Dakota, this particular model run doesn't show a whole lot. But if we go back and look at the NAM does show storms right in that slight risk area. The NAM shows storms firing up down here in central South Dakota. So in this case, I would actually buy the NAM just because it favors more of what the Storm Prediction Center is showing. So these storms kind of fire and move through this area and then extend all the way through the eastern Dakotas throughout the late evening hours and overnight hours. So we'll definitely watch for some damaging wind threat in this area. No, we're not looking at snow. Not yet. Close. We're close. We're getting closer. But as far as the damaging wind threat, could get some gusty in these pockets of orange here. Some gusty 40, 45 mile per hour wind gusts are certainly possible. And then the updraft velocity swath, I'm not going to pull that up, but with any of these storms that are really discrete, folks, they could definitely produce a tornado. So just be aware of that. Look out west, and interesting weather feature surging through Montana right now. Then another one's going to move in later this morning throughout western Montana. So you see that blue mixed in with some of the yellow, even some pink in there. So some snow, grapple, maybe a little sleet mix, some wintry mix up here in certain sections of the western Rockies of Montana. But lower elevations, mainly rain, and this will continue. We'll get kind of the pop-up activity down here in New Mexico and Arizona, down near Tucson. But I would say the main show as far as weather today is certainly going to be Montana. We just get a closer look at Montana here. Here comes this push. Look at the blue showing up here. Higher elevations of the Rockies in Montana, getting snow. This will continue to push in. This is some heavy precipitation too. So heavy snow, way up there in elevation. This will continue to suspend down here. And yeah, so how much snow are they calling for? Well, let's look at the National Weather Service forecast. Let's go down here to snow. And yeah, I mean, obviously confined to the higher elevations, just a few inches way up there in elevation. I haven't read, the discussion from the winter weather advisory in this area. So I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know what the snow levels are with this. I'm sure maybe Karen, you can comment on what they are right now locally, but definitely an interesting day of weather, especially in central to western Montana. That's for sure for late August standards, but not totally uncommon either. But so these are temperatures today. A hot one, no doubt about it. Pretty hot. I mean, it's going to get to the upper 90s, the low 100s, maybe in the mid-Atlantic, sections of the mid-South also, deep South, well into the 90s. Humid, just uncomfortable. I mean, it's August in the South. I mean, this is not uncommon at all. I mean, this is late August, August 28th. But still, I mean, it gets hot like this even in September, as you guys know. But look at this cooler air mass up in Canada, Quebec, Ontario. So this cool air mass is going to ooze into the interior sections of New England. So it's actually going to be much cooler kind of up here in the higher elevations of Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, and the Adirondacks of New York, for example. So temperatures out west, hot across the middle of the country, starting to heat up across the Southwest and California. Still cooler up here in the northern Rockies and the Pacific Northwest. Not really cool, just comfortable temperatures, to be honest with you. So as far as our pattern change, guys, this was issued yesterday, caused a lot of excitement for most people on social media. This is the new temperature outlook that was issued yesterday afternoon around 4 to 5 o'clock. And check it out, guys. This is valid from September 2nd through the 6th. I mean, what a better time to have below average temperatures if you're in the below average temperatures for the start of what I would consider fall. September 1st to me is the start of fall. Now, you folks out west, as you can tell, well above average temperatures predicted. It's not good to see because typically that's associated with the dry conditions, and we need rain out here. We don't need any wildfires going in September, but below average temperatures showing up from Texas, I mean, through the Midwest, especially the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and getting all the way down to sections of the South. You're starting to see some of this blue. So the highest confidence area is obviously in the dark blue here. But, I mean, folks, you even go to the 4th through the 10th of September, and below average temperatures hanging on for dear life from southern New England all the way to the Mid-Atlantic to the Southeast. So near normal. So relief is on the way, folks. Now, we look at actually, temperatures compared to average. So when you see the blues on your map, these are a few degrees below average for this time of the year. Obviously, the warmer colors is a few degrees above average. Now, you start to see some of these, darker blues, even greens. This is when you start to get the 5, 10, 12 degrees below average. Same thing with the opposite with the reds getting into the white shades. I mean, that's well above average. So you keep this going, and you just in general, just focus on the blue here. We get into Monday morning, was that Labor Day? Yeah, Labor Day. And see the below average temperatures sort of trying to beat down those above average temperatures across the deep South. And eventually, once you start to get into midway next week, below average temperatures begin to settle in for a lot of sections of the deep South, of the eastern U.S., even down to Florida. And yeah, much more comfortable temperatures. Now, I want to add this. Do I think, and this is going to kind of show it here, do I think that this is going to be one of those cold fronts that, gets, Birmingham to Atlanta to Columbia up to Raleigh, like down into the low 50s or something? I really don't. I really don't. I don't think this is going to be one of those air masses we just experienced last week where we had crystal blue skies for the most part. Very, no rain. I think this is going to be a little different. I think this is going to be more so driven off below average high temperatures rather than really below average low temperatures. And you think, well, Mitch, I'm not exactly sure what you're saying there, but I'll kind of show you what I mean here. So this is predicted highs off the blend of all models, which is a great tool to use here. And we're going to start off by Friday, obviously still very hot across the Ohio Valley, highs in the 90s all the way down to the mid-south, the southeast. Notice the big cool down already starting for the mid-Atlantic and the northeast. You keep this going. That's kind of one cold front. That isn't the main one. We keep this going. We get into Saturday. First day of college football. Looks like some cooler air has moved into the Midwest, but, just a nice warm day. Nothing too crazy. But, for the folks, ACC, SEC country down here, hot day. Hot day for the first day of college football, okay? We started getting into Sunday. Still hot. First day of September. It's not going to feel like fall across the southeast. Starting to cool down across these areas right into here. You're really starting to feel a cool down up here. Highs only in the 60s and 70s in certain sections of the upper Midwest. And then you start to get into Monday. Okay, that's when you start to get really cool in this area. Nice, comfortable temperatures. And then you get into Tuesday. And then look at your high temperatures down here in the Carolinas. Only 70s and 80s. Trying to beat it down in the deep south. And then you get into Wednesday. These are high temperatures. High temperatures only in the 70s. Down into the Carolinas, areas of Georgia. Florida still. It's hard to get a cold front this time of the year down in Florida. You guys know that. But, pretty comfortable temperatures. But it's cooler along the immediate eastern U.S. So that's something to watch for. You get in the next Thursday. Look at that, 79 degrees in Columbia. And it just looks pretty comfortable. Okay. Now, for my folks in the central U.S., you're thinking, well, you left us hanging, man. I got you covered here. We'll start off for Saturday. Not too bad already. It already looks like it's cooling down. 90 degrees in Dallas. You guys can handle that, right? You get into Sunday, not too bad. You can see the cooler air dropping down. And, you guys start to get a little bit cooler. Even into Texas, no widespread upper 90s, low 100s, just 80s. Are you going to be as cool as maybe areas to your east? Probably not. This is Wednesday. This is Thursday of next week. This is Friday of next week. And this will tweak a little bit. But you get what I'm saying. Now, we go back to the east and we look at low temperatures. Let me show you something here. So, typical kind of stuff as we get into the Labor Day weekend, right? Low temperatures. Sunday, September 1st, just in the 60s and 70s in the south, just typical stuff. All right, we start to get into Monday morning. Look at these cooler temperatures starting to show up for the upper Midwest, the Ohio Valley. But this isn't nothing too crazy at all. Okay, we start to get into the morning of September 3rd, Tuesday. Starting to get some cooler temperatures into the mid-Atlantic now. Widespread 40s up in PA, New York. It's starting to get crisp out here, right? Not crispy as in hot, but crisp like that cool, crisp air, right? Okay, we get into next Wednesday. All right, you're starting to get some lows deep into the 60s down to Georgia and the Carolinas. Even in Alabama, some 50s starting to slip into North Carolina. And then we get into Thursday, okay? Just still some upper 50s, 60s. But you notice, we're not talking about like the mid-50s down in the deep south. It's just, it's cooler, low time temperatures, yeah, but it's not. It's kind of like, to me, what I think is going to end up happening for a lot of areas in the South next week. Not everybody, but a lot of areas is we're going to get some days where the highs are only in the 70s and the lows are in the 60s. And if you look at your 10-day forecast, say in Columbia, Atlanta, Charlotte, whomever, kind of in those areas, you're going to notice that there's going to be a dramatic temperature drop sometime next week where you're getting highs in the upper 80s, low 90s, and then it's going to go like into the 70s with rain. And then lows in the 60s. You're not getting like a high around 78, 79 with a bright sunny icon on there, and then lows like in the low 50s or something. It's not one of those air masses, I don't think, next week. And this is why. What's going to happen is you're going to get some kind of weird boundary stalling. I talked about this a few days ago, how I thought we were going to get some unsettled weather late next week. So, we get into later this week. All right, And basically, you're just going to see blobs of green on here, some yellows, splotches of yellows and reds and orange. So just think of that as just showers and storms or just rain. So you continue to keep this going. You're getting into this weekend. You're starting to get some unsettled weather across the Ohio Valley, the Mid-South, even the Northeast. Could be a lot of rain games out there potentially. And then we get into Sunday. Some of this rain starts to get closer to the southeast. But if you notice up here where high pressure is starting to move in, you're starting to get a clearing out of any kind of precipitation up here. Not a whole lot going on. You guys are on the dry, cooler side of this. And then we start to get into late Sunday into Monday. And then we're getting into Monday. And look at all this rain over the Carolinas, Georgia, areas of Alabama. And this kind of continues. And then a lot of this rain kind of gets shunted to the south. I still think some of this rain could be a little bit further north. I think this is going to be close enough to bring a lot of cloud cover. I think there'd be some kind of boundary. To me, I really think there's going to be some sort of boundary, I don't know, somewhere kind of like into here, where you're just going to get a lot of precipitation right here and just south of it. So, something to watch for sure. And you continue, and, certainly when you get these boundaries that kind of sag and stall out, you got to watch for these tropical systems that could form, like this one tries to form really quick and then, move up and then affect areas of Maine and whatever. And we'll talk about that here in a second. But when you get these boundaries that stall out pretty far south, you definitely got to watch the tropics. But I think we're going to get a weird pattern next week, late next week. Mark my word. You can hold me to it. And rainfall between now and the next 10 days, most of this starts to fall, especially in the southeast. I would say more so late next week. So, a couple inches of rain. But this is just a blend of all models. It's not a forecast, but this tells us that we're going to get kind of a rainy, unsettled pattern late next week. And like I said, if you look at your 10-day forecast on some of your apps, whatever you're using, you're going to notice as we get into about like middle portion of next work week, like a week from today, you're going to start to see a lot of cloud icons with rain, cooler temperatures. That's your unsettled pattern coming up. So we'll continue to watch this. I'll fine-tune this, but let's give you an update on the tropics. As of right now, we have a new area of interest, but folks, this is not likely going to develop. It's not really worth talking about much, but there is a new area of interest right here, 10% chance of developing in the next 7 days. And then we still got our 20% chance right here that has not budged, and there's a solid reason why. It's because model guidance just flat out dropped on it yesterday morning and has not returned. So this still has a 20% chance for some sort of tropical system to develop over the next 7 days out of the MDR, just this main area jumbled up shower and storm activity, which is this right here. This continues to just not get organized. It's looked the same for days. And if anything's going to fire up, it's going to fire up out of this, so we'll have to just watch. There's this impulse of energy right here, which is the other area of interest. It's going to try to do something sneaky, but chances are low of that. You see there's a lot of activity in the Gulf of Mexico. You just got to continue to keep your eye on that kind of stuff right there. But outside of that, guys, that's it. Tropics are quiet. People keep talking about on social media over and over and over again. You got to watch these tropical waves coming off Africa. But, they're not doing anything. And I just think they're having a really hard time really coming together. Just to kind of sum it up very quickly there. No point in diving too deep into that, to be honest with you. I'll be honest. I would really enjoy if some of these people like Levi with like Tropical Tidbits could make a video about what in the world's going on. Because I know, as I'm speaking, you guys are probably thinking, well, don't you know what's going on? Well, I mean, if I'm being completely honest with you, like I've said before, real-time observation-wise, I mean, we can kind of figure out what's going on. The thing that's got everybody puzzled is why absolutely nothing continues to show up in the medium to long term. You're not getting any crazy long-range hurricanes. You're just not getting anything. It's just quiet as a mouse out there, and I just think it has a lot of people just confused. And I'll be honest with you, if we get to September 10th, which is however many days from now, and there's still nothing out there, and there continues to not look like there's anything out there, I will be close to saying this was a huge forecast error by everybody involved, including people like me. And even though I didn't make a seasonal forecast, I still was totally sold, just like from the experts in the Climate Prediction Center, National Hurricane Center, Colorado State University. I was totally sold this was going to be a pretty hyperactive hurricane season. Everything was coming together and pointing to it. But I really think if we get to about early to mid-September and there's still absolutely nothing going on, then you can pretty much say that this season is not even going to come close to living up to what it was forecast to be. Now, I will say this, it only takes one storm, guys, and I think we're going to get that one storm. I think we're going to get one storm just like we do every single hurricane season that's going to really threaten somebody in the Caribbean and maybe even into the U.S. When is that going to happen? I'm not quite sure. But if you look at the latest Euro, I'll kind of go through this pretty quick. We'll start off for this weekend, Saturday. Nothing going on. It does latch onto a wave that comes off Africa. So a week from today, it says, hey, there might be a tropical wave right here where this L is over the main development region. And it does try to develop it, but it immediately tries to head north. And 10 days from now, we just have a weak tropical cyclone disturbance looks like it's starting to turn north. But there is a high pressure on top of it, so I don't know how far it's going to turn north. But it's pretty far north out in the central Atlantic and not really threatening anybody. You look at it a little bit closer to home, because I really think with a pattern with a stalled out boundary late next week, we need to watch closer to home. And we look at what's going on the Euro too, just blobs of green everywhere. You can see where the front kind of dives down. You want to watch like this little area of energy right here. If you look at the Vort map, I'm sure this shows a little spin. You want to watch these areas of energy off the coast of the southeast and in the Gulf of Mexico. But all in all, you take it a week out, there's nothing really defined that forms. You take it 10 days out, there's nothing really defined that forms at all. There's little areas of energy out there, but nothing that really comes together. The GFS, what does the GFS say out here in the central Atlantic? Same thing, GFS really wants to latch onto the same wave that the Euro is, gets it kind of north. We'll go all the way to about 10 days out, still has the wave, and we'll just extend a little bit further. And it takes the same wave that the Euro has and begins to turn it north and not bothering a soul out here. And then eventually it just weakens. Shear gets it and it's gone. Like poof. All right. GFS a little bit closer to home. We got anything going on? We take it through the weekend. We get into next week. We get into midway next week. We get into late next work week. We're about, say, 8-9 days from now. That boundary stalled out. That boundary finally, some energy off the coast of the eastern U.S. pops off a low. We'll have to watch for that. No point in diving deep into that right now because we just don't know. Absolutely nothing happens through the entirety of the run, folks. Yeah, you can sit here and say, oh, look down here in the Gulf of Mexico. Sure, but it's 366 hours out. But I will tell you, this is a pattern next week where we could get something sneaky that happens all of a sudden in this area right into here. It's honestly right for it. We're going to have a boundary that comes down and stalls out right into here. We're going to have energy associated with that boundary. They'll try to sneak off the coast of the southeast. We just got to watch out, see if they consolidate into some sort of tropical system. The patterns would support it. It's something you typically don't see until October. But one thing I'll mention, guys, is we're getting a lot of troughs this showing up in the long range. My gut tells me, and I'm not going to make a winter forecast, my gut tells me that this winter is going to throw some people for a loop just like hurricane season has so far to this date. Everybody's talking about La Nina, warmer than average temperatures across the eastern U.S. If you're going to bet anything, if I was to ever make a seasonal forecast about the winter, I would just, and nobody would watch it because it wouldn't grab anybody's attention. I would just put a big old orange or red blob over the eastern U.S. and say above average temperatures predicted, because it seems like that's what it's always been over the last several years. So that's what I would do. And I would just base it based off the last several years. I wouldn't base it off really anything besides that. But I'll tell you, I got a weird feeling about this winter. I do. I don't know what it is. It's just kind of there. I think it's just going to throw some people for a loop. So we'll dive into that in a later date. But anyways, the European ensemble through 1 week out does latch onto that second wave. It's dropped off the first wave that has an area of interest right now. Still some members kind of hanging out. There's some L's kind of getting jumbled up in the Gulf of Mexico. And we'll take this 10 days out. And if you notice, some L's here. You got some L's that form here. Low pressure is what I mean by L's. And we still got some members showing up for that area of interest. And we do have a pretty solid signal for that wave to form coming off Africa. But it looks like it gets too far north, which is good. And it gets pretty much ripped apart. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. I'm going to keep it real with you guys here. Not going to, freak anybody out, throw a big hurricane icon over Florida, make you guys think there's a hurricane coming. It just is what it is. I was expecting at this point in late August that we'd be already closer to like the I name or something at least. I was expecting we'd be tracking something at this point. But we're not. It's just slow. And it looks like we're going to roll into September pretty slow also in the tropics. But, there's good things to look forward to. Obviously, we're not looking forward to a hurricane. But back home, cooler air mass just in time for September. I'm excited about that. So, the weather nerd in me kind of wants to track something in the tropics. But obviously, the genuine human in me does not want this to impact land. But I would love to track something because I'm a weather nerd. Just a big old hurricane way out in the ocean, not really bothering anybody. But, there's nothing to talk about. I'm not going to make up something that isn't there. So, guys, always will keep it real here. There's nothing too crazy, nothing flashy. And you're always going to get real, genuine energy with me. So God bless all y'all. Y'all have a wonderful day. God bless all y'all. God is good. And I'll talk to you again soon.